Hello, and welcome to Jarviskjir, A Mother's Love with guest star Will, who I haven't actually played a game with for forever.
I know, it's been so long.
Yeah, I've not DM'd for you for forever either. Back in the OG days. We also don't have a Dean today. As you can see, that totally ruined my plans. Couture overlays, but he just couldn't handle being in the might of such a bearded man. It would make him feel impotent and lesser.
It's bad enough being around me.
Yeah! How's everyone doing? Look, if you miss a session, I'm fully win my rights as DM to sass you 100%.
Glad I've never missed a session, technically, sort of.
So rude.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yes, I'm good, Ollie. How are you?
We don't discuss this.
You asked!
How are you doing, Doxy? I'm seeing you chomping on the bit there.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you?
No! I'm fine. I'm excited! D&D is super hype right now. With both this and the Sunday game. All the cool stuff going on. Last week you killed a cave dragon. In a absolutely majestic display by Ian, who's currently covered by bits. Majestic display. Serena got her, hero moment to shine. But it was a good fight all around, and continued down now into the Underdark, into the country, more or less, of Narashiro, the drow-controlled territories of the Underdark, this massive fungal forest with this tall, ominous, artistic city beyond it, or actually within it. You followed some cannibals. You got lost, asked some cannibals for the way, and got past a sort of drow war camp by Indira, just kind of having big dick energy, really, and demanding her way through. And now are trying to find a spot of farmland in the fungal forest to hole up, rest, plan, figure out what you need to do. Because now that you're in Narashiro, that's only the first sixth of a plan or so. So we join our party as they wander through the slight dirt roads between the vast fungal trees of the fungal forest. The ground is dry and cracked. There's this kind of greyish-blue dust that clings to most things. There's some simple sign postage. Most of it's in Elven, though sometimes you can tell that there's been an undercommon sign added quite recently, though the only way you can really tell that is that you can't read that. Undercommon is Elvish script, just written very differently. There's signs of little homesteads, and something that Indira would definitely pick up upon, even though you're tired and trudging through these streets looking for somewhere alone, is slaves. The way that this farmland is being treated, while it seems haphazardly, there's method to the madness. There are some types of this, the plant life that grows here, that's being farmed by quite clearly slave labor. Most of them are those blind, pale, pallid creatures you've met called Grimlocks that were being used as weapons by the drow before. They're toiling away with hoes, digging at the ground, planting things, tending things, carefully pruning things. Everything is done very carefully. Most of the Grimlock are wearing, almost completely hooded and shrouded because they're such ugly creatures, but occasionally you spy through the trees a elf, maybe a high elf, maybe a drow, very clearly a slave due to the minute, almost artistic shackles and bindings they wear, who are actually leading the other Grimlocks in a slight other place, almost like managers. And that would definitely be something Indira would catch on quite quickly as you're walking. And as you keep on walking, Mr. William, eventually your character would catch up to this party. They don't really know where they're going. As such is obvious. Even though they are disguised, they quite quickly don't belong. One thing that's evident is that Gilwyn doesn't have manacles on anymore and is just, walking around. You would find them from a hiding place in the trees and in the plant cover. And what's your plan?
I would wait like a little bit, and then as I see that they've stopped for a second to kind of like look ahead, I would come up behind them kind of stealthily, and then just like say, you guys come here often?
And can you describe yourself real quick?
Right now, my character looks like a very, very typical drow. If you've seen a drow at all, this is the epitome of a stereotypical drow.
But you're speaking common, right?
Yep.
Serena looks back, sort of with there's a bit of sort of the shadow magic, sort of that she normally casts shadow bolt with, sort of forms around her crown. She looks back and narrows her eyes at you. Well, you could say that. I have not met a drow here yet that speaks our language. That either means you are here to attack us, or you are an ally of the surface, one way or another. And I would advise you explain yourself quick, unless you want to be sent to meet my mother.
You see kind of like a smile appear on my face, where it's like, when do you ever see a drow that's actually like happy? And it's kind of you're taken aback for a second because it's like a big cheesy smile. And well, you've put two and two together. I'm here to help you.
Sent you?
It's not necessarily who sent me, it's more of who I'm with, but it's people from the surface. And we know of you, you know of us. She looks directly at Neil's character and says,
Vale.
Vale. Sorry, I always forget because I always read the first part and I'm like, oh, there's more than just Vale. But then I'm like, what is it? And I'm like,
you can call him Era Vale. He would.
Yeah, I know, but
they call me Vale.
Formal.
I know.
Oh, Mr.
So then,
Era
yeah, she
Vale.
looks at Vale and says, the Harlequins of Vale?
You mean the ones who got a bit handsy-pansy with Indira and then very kindly helped us out with some inquiries later on?
I believe I slept with one of them.
Oh, that wasn't me.
and
A
you
pity,
say
then.
and you say you are with them?
She just nods, doesn't say anything at this point, just still has a pretty big smile on.
I'm going to insight roll.
Vale draws his sword.
I feel like Indira would also be really suspicious.
No, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, you can insight totally, right?
14 insight. What do you think, William?
I'm being completely honest.
Let's see. Vale's holding his rapier in one hand.
Yep.
If you are a member of these Harlequins, you will know of the shop we visited. What was its name?
Takes a second to think. Ollie, would I know the name of that shop?
You can roll me a history check.
Oh man.
I'm not going to give it to you that easy.
That's fine. Oh, history's not good either.
Nope.
Make sure I don't Eric it. Let's see, history. Oh!
First
Yes!
roll.
First roll and it's a crit.
The shop is called the
Bless
Witch's Wine, I believe. Also, you could turn your dice on, Will.
Oh, my dice aren't on? I'm doing that.
No. Yeah.
That would look better.
Do it.
Do it. Well, you don't have to, but you should.
No, I like
bitch.
Enable 3D.
I just, why isn't it on by default?
It should be. It was on Saturday, so I don't know why it's not now. Oh,
Yeah,
actually,
it's
it wasn't on Saturday technically. It was, but they don't. A different system. Anyway. So wait, what did you say? The witch's wine?
The witch's wine.
I look over and I say, but how do I know you're not just getting information from? No, I'm just kidding. It's the witch's wine.
Serena sort of glances at Vale with a small smile and says, "So Vale, did you remember that, or?"
No, it was kind of a bluff, really. But sounds right. Now that the drow was a she, a he.
You don't
hard to
necessarily
tell.
know. It's hard to tell.
Drow are much more androgynous than surface elves, who are already, on the androgyny
And
scale.
then I specifically made it as like nondescript as possible, not male, female. Right? So it's just like,
It is a drow.
yep,
And the name is Riley, which can be a man or a woman.
yes.
We haven't got a name yet, though, so.
Okay. Say we believe you. Why didn't you come down with us?
Well, we kind of took a while to contemplate if you needed me, and it seems as though you might.
We just killed the dragon. We don't need any help.
Indira would make at this point would make eye contact with Vale and then Serena and then just start laughing.
Serena's definitely amused. So, in what way did they decide that you were necessary?
She would just start rattling off in Undercommon. Did you get any of that? In Common.
Okay, right. You've made your point.
Yeah.
Welcome.
You're walking in front.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's just like when this lot are talking to the drow anyway, but whatever.
I can I'm pretty useful. I'm a situational kind of person.
So you said you were part of the Harlequins. I believe formal introductions are in order. My name is Vale looks like a drow right now because he's got the cloak of disguise self on. My name is Erevale Valaner. I'm a Sun Elf duelist, and this is he motions to Indira.
I'm Indira,
The storm.
but you can call me Indira.
Indira
Cool.
works.
Gilwin's like, I'm Gilwin. Oh.
And then he farts.
Yeah.
Gilliwin, I think you and I are gonna get along fine. Well, you can call me Riley, but I wouldn't recommend calling me Riley while we're down here because that's not kind of. I've never heard of a drow named Riley.
How
Call me whatever you want.
How about Rayli?
Sure.
That sounds like a drow's name to me.
Hey, sure.
As much as anything else.
So, do you simply speak the language, or do you know their culture?
Well, I've heard plenty of stories. I've told plenty of stories about many cultures, but I definitely am fluent in the language, and I probably know a thing or two. I mean, I have a great memory, as you can tell. I knew the name of the witch's wine. So if I've read about it or if I've experienced it, I'll probably remember it. Probably won't remember it at all.
That's quite a boast.
Guess I'm not your average. Looks down at herself. Drow.
Apparently not. I'm sure that will come in very handy when you are being murdered by some horrific underbeast. Nonetheless, we are... The plan was to find somewhere to hole up. Perhaps a abandoned farmstead. Perhaps a farmstead owned by... we have heard of a faction called the Ronin, who are not fully accepted by society. Perhaps they are displeased. We're not really sure. Anyway, we are looking for somewhere safe to hole up.
And luckily, Riley has already found one.
Yeah, so...
Little minx.
You minx you. Yeah, so if you need somewhere safe, follow me.
Vale's just gonna just to be sure, he's just gonna insight that.
Absolutely.
Rolls a 1. Seems truthful.
He'd look to the others and shrug.
Well, it's not like we have any better leads, although it's probably an idea to keep our guards up. She says, not having released the shadows that have gathered around the crown the entire time.
It's not like it can be more dangerous than a dragon, though, right?
No, you are quite right, and that is why I believe we should take her up on the offer. But we are always on our guard to one extent or another. But
She's walking up front.
yes.
This one's afraid to walk up front? Wow, I would have thought you'd have been the first one in the front. Nah, that's fine.
She's not very well versed in tactics. Don't worry about it, Riley. By the way, when in front of other drow, you may refer to me as Jaying. Just so you know.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Yes, you start leading them off the little dirt tracks. Most of you get covered in that kind of dust, that bluish dust from the ground as you go between plants that are mostly dried out. I remember at some point where I said, "Oh, don't worry, Serena, it's going to be plenty wet in the Underdark," and then I realized
It's the dry season.
It's the dry season, so rip.
Yep, Serena is looking very unhappy.
But it's still, even then, it's still not incredibly dry here. Because it is this fungally area, it's still drier than it would be normally. And leads you to what looks like an abandoned farming homestead. It really would be comparable to something you would see out in, the lands of Northenden or the Elven lands or something. It is this little elven cottage. The architecture is similar. There's this elven design on the fencing that's kind of looping and swirling, which reminds you of the gate into a radia. But it's quite clearly abandoned. The roof actually has large amounts of the stone slating missing. Like, there's holes in the roof. There is, as you get closer and closer, you're traipsing through the farmlands, the plants are overgrown. There's this very large beetle, dead in a paddock, kind of the size of an elephant, clearly a beast of burden. There's still actually some saddles and barding on it, but it's just sort of dead, crunched up against seemingly this feeding device. And actually, when you pass it, this feeding device, this kind of big metal trough thing, twists with a ka-chunk, making this very loud metal noise. But it seems to be just some sort of automated thing. And you can head into the quiet of this abandoned cottage where you're quite, removed from everything. The insides, anything of worth has already been stolen. It's just very simple decor and most of it to some degree of ruination.
Great. This is quaint, I suppose.
It is hardly worthy of myself or Vale or Indira or Gilwyn, but
I don't know. I quite like it. But I wouldn't know.
But
Proceeds to put his thumb up his nose.
Sorry, I was playing catch-up to catch you guys. Otherwise, I would have made sure it had all the amenities.
yes, quite. But, well, I suppose we can't be too picky down here.
I am thankful to have anywhere to stay at all. I do
suppose
miss
it
my boat.
wouldn't be too hard to repair it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I could do some. And then she looks around, sees like a crack in the floor, and touches it, mending, fixes that small crack. Yeah, I mean, it's a little better now.
Interesting.
Oh, I got flashbacks to Stalbor on the boat. Spending
I know.
Weeks
Like, I'm just
mending
gonna spend
it.
weeks touching everything.
I'll get it done eventually. By the now, you guys are exhausted. You've been traveling for a day.
Yeah.
You see no... There seems to be no day-night cycle down in the Underdark. There's this constant light coming from the ceiling. That's... the strange thing about it is it's almost a pinkish light. Sometimes pinkish, sometimes bluish. It kind of shifts and change. But it's not getting darker or lighter, really. Aside from when clouds move ahead.
Well, we should start a fire and fix the doors. Try and get a bit of sleep. Perhaps we could do a bit more work on the cottage in the morning. And then I suppose we ought to go and scout out the... Riley, the plan at the moment is the Firewalker. His war camp is nearby. I believe his name is Haraga. My piece of paper here says that he is also known as the Future Seer. So that is disturbing. Let's hope he does not see us coming. But the plan is in some way to catch him away or out and kill him.
Well, he definitely won't see us coming. And she will touch herself. She'll touch her like her clavicle and become invisible. And then as she does that, maybe 3 seconds later, pops back up to just being in front of you, but she's no longer the drow that she once was. She is a very, very what's the best way to describe her? I have it written down, but I'm trying to think of a word. She stands out. She's an elf that stands out. She's half of her head is shaved. Like, she just kind of sticks out for most parts. She's wearing blue and yellow garbs. She has half plate on. She's like very noticeable down here, different than any of the creatures that you've obviously run into. And she is a high elf.
And I imagine Vale would be able to piece out that the half plate she's wearing is not only high elven make, but also mithril.
Ooh.
She would take a ukulele off of her back and start kind of just playing with it and say, "So, what's your plan to deal with this guy?"
Vale crosses his arms and his own illusion drops. And he stands there clearly self-satisfied in the fact that he's a sun elf and you're a high elf. That alters the power dichotomy in his mind.
She also appears to maybe be a half high elf. At a glance. There's a little humaniness.
There's a little humaniness to her. Her ears aren't quite as pointed.
Not quite as far up her own ass as a high elf.
Exactly.
Well, while the invisibility is no doubt extremely useful, I kind of mean more as in seeing the future. Like, this person is going to stab me at this time.
He would look over at the rest of them and say, "Wow, Vale really doesn't get the jokes, huh? I was just being sarcastic, buddy."
Oh, he's the humorous one among us.
Oh, that's.
I thought that was me. And Gilwyn falls over.
She just looks at Gilwyn like,
That was.
I mean, it was informative while also joking.
Right. Yeah. I also enjoy joking with our lives.
Tell me a joke.
Let's all laugh about dying down here with this person that we don't know.
Indira would put a hand on Vale's back. I think tensions are really high right now, and that's understandable, but we really do need to rest and plan. I'm injured. We have a lot of work to do. We need to eliminate a warlord. I think it's time we all calm down.
I'm quite calm, sort of. But
and
you
she
know,
just sort of rubs your back.
know,
like her hand has been on your back this whole time.
That is not to say that I do not appreciate what you have done so far, Riley. I am merely on edge due to the environment. I'm sure I will be back to normal once the environment goes away.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I wonder if there's a decent lake nearby.
Maybe
need
they
to get
have
out
a
of this.
bath.
I need to get out of this dust. It's playing havoc with my scales.
Come, I'll help you look.
My thanks.
Alrighty.
Perhaps you could bathe inside that beetle. Just cut it open and dive right in. As they're moving off, he then turns to Riley and nods, and then goes about setting his bedroll down.
Takes like a deep breath, like, okay, that's what I'm dealing with here.
Riley hears a Serena's voice in her head, just a whisper of, "Yes, he's always like that."
So I imagine you're taking a long rest.
I'm presuming we can take like an amount of this rest, like to do like. Can you do like a menial task, like fixing the place?
Yeah.
Hammering nails in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, long rest is like relaxed, calm stuff. You know, put at this place a little bit. Like the doors are just off the hinges, and you just put that back together. These two look for any kind of water source nearby. There seems to be that there would be a stream nearby that's mostly dried up. It's a bit of a trickle that would be good for collecting water, but not all that much. And there's also a well in this farm, though, which would be much better. It's a little bit worrying that you're already really deep down, and the well is going even further down. But it'll do to collect water to, bathe in.
Yeah, it'll have to do.
Anything else you guys want to do during a long rest?
Basically what I would do is after like she bathes as much as possible, I'd be like, you missed a couple of spots, and I would walk over and cast prestidigitation a couple of times, just like, yeah, let's get this mud off.
While that is appreciated, it is almost less the actual dirt, and it is more the act of being in water. I assume you have noticed, she says, gesturing at her tail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's like a slug.
Jeez. The tensions really are high around here, huh?
Before sleep, I think that Indira would try to sit down with Vale and Serena and start giving what lessons they could to Serena on Elvish.
Yes. So Elvish is kind of a downtime activity that on days where you're not doing a lot of work, Ian can put them towards his counter. So yeah, you absolutely during your long rests can start teaching Serena some Elvish. Alrighty. After what sleep you can get in a strange, unfamiliar place, which is a little better once you put the doors back on this building, and close the window shutters and things like that. You do manage to get sleep. It is strange that this place, it's really the same when you wake up. The only thing that's really changed is that the clouds have moved and changed. There's not all that much. There's a little bit of wind blowing from somewhere that kicks up the dusts in the dry, sort of barren parts of the farmland. But you don't even seem to notice an awful lot of wildlife in this area either.
When we rose, Vale would get out Jiang's journal and go over to Raylai and say, I took this off a drow assassin. I've been trying to piece together bits of information from it. It's quite detailed. However, I don't speak or read or write Undercommon. Some of his inflections, and he has used some Elvish in here, but it's not archaic, it's just crude and different. Perhaps you wouldn't mind having a look with me, see whether he mentions anything to do with this future seer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can give me an intelligence or wisdom check for that, Mr. William.
Okay, so wisdom check.
you go through it. You can read this journal a lot better than Vale can. It seems that Hiraga is not mentioned much more than on that design. It seems that he hasn't met this Hiraga. There's no mention of Hiraga when he mentions going through the war camp that you have to get to get here. There's really not much information at all.
Yeah, I would just turn back to Vale and say, so you just know he's here, huh? Because this book's not really giving me much more than that either.
Yep. And we don't know much else either.
Well, let's think. He's a firewalker, so he's probably has something to do with fire. Let's not get burned.
Or he's just a crazy drow that has walked through some fires.
Oh, maybe he is burned. Interesting. Gives you nothing else because it doesn't know anything else.
On the sketch, it seems that the what they're wearing is either fur or fire. Because you know, if you actually were there looking at the way it was printed, because this would be drawn with a very different style of artistry that they do down here. When you're looking at it, thinking about it, it would elicit some kind of pyromancy.
I would relay that and just be like, yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I'd say they probably have something to do with fire itself.
Indeed.
Judging by the positioning of the names and the titles, it is likely that Future Seer is a rank or title bestowed upon him. The question is whether that actually indicates abilities or if it is simply an honorary title.
Could be either.
I would suggest that we go into it presuming that he has some capability in this matter. It's noteworthy that none of the other drow are men who lead. He has some sort of power that has got him into this position, I suspect.
Well, you guys killed the dragon, so you can handle this guy, right?
Yes, but like a war camp is a little bit different to one guy.
Your mic just did the thing.
I know, because it unplugged.
It's getting the crap out of me.
Sorry.
I thought someone was tasing me.
So what? I actually didn't hear what you said, because when it does it, I can't hear anything. So,
Vale would. He said, "It's not so much the war master that scares us, but the entire war camp. It is unlikely that we would be able to get away with a simple 1 versus 1 duel."
No, I understand that, but would you say that you want to come down here to kill him? Is that your end goal?
Yes, we're going to kill every one of these people on this piece of paper.
Oh, okay, yeah. As long as we're on the same page here.
They are also all on the same page.
It's a 2-page spread.
Damn it, 2-page spread. Well, I suppose we should rest up.
You just did the rest. It's the morning.
Oh, this is after. Oh, sorry, I thought this was during. Yeah, well then I suppose we should get on our way.
Gilwyn will actually say, with a moment of clarity, that Indira could talk her way around that camp so far. You could probably show a familiar face and ask questions. But you would say it in, like a northern accent.
But, what questions would you like me to ask? I mean, the best I can do is seduce the dude. The guy, the man. The best I can do is use my feminine charms to lure him away. I don't know what to ask to get him alone.
Well, maybe you could start with asking something simple like, why is he called the Firewalker? Does he use a sword? What sort of magic does he use?
Gilwyn
And you
also...
expect them to give me the answers to that without raising...
Gilwyn sort of leans back and says, well, the camp might be dangerous, but what if there's... You know, we always ask questions in a local tavern. There might be somewhere nearby.
And the soldiers must go there.
Where soldiers gather, those wishing to profit off them gather. Prostitutes, drinking holes, the like. There's bound to be somewhere
Gambling.
or someone that knows. I mean, what we need are abilities, habits, that sort of thing. Habits in particular, because habits might indicate somewhere where we can jump him, as it were.
Yeah, I have an idea. I hope you all could use a drink, because we're going to celebrate tonight.
I would never say no to a good drink.
What are we celebrating?
A birthday. Who cares? We'll come up with something, but we'll find soldiers at a bar, and we'll ask for their war stories on the Firewalker, the future seer.
Cool. So basically what I said, we just go and ask them.
Obviously.
Maybe don't get too drunk in enemy territory, though.
Of course, we don't have to get drunk at all. We have to at least look like we're getting drunk, though.
I mean, there's no reason to not have one drink, right?
Yeah.
Small.
After all, it is my birthday.
We did just kill a dragon.
Aye.
One of those things is a great achievement.
She would lock arms with Serena. Be like, "Milady."
Lead on.
Okay.
They'll do a little spin, turn back into drow.
Magical girl!
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Magical girl.
100%.
Question is... Now you have someone who speaks Undercommon. It's relatively easy for you to follow the signage towards the nearest town. While it seems clear that Narashiro is the city that controls this area, something Gilwyn would actually point out is like, well, this is farmland. There's always places where people sell the goods, and they become towns. That's exactly what Goldport's like, all over the place. And following the signage, you actually go towards one of these places. You're close enough that you can see Narashiro in the distance. Because of the lighting of the cavern, it's almost always kind of illuminated from the sides and the top, making it look like this strange thing in the distance. But this town is built around what's kind of a market building, kind of like a spider web. It goes up and then like out, and these walkways go between other buildings, and kind of under them are stalls and other small buildings. This is when the design differences between high elves and dark elves is way more evident. There is, a sharpness to it. There are areas where there's so many statues, particularly of the female figure, holding up pillars and things like that. There's a celebration of that. And even the design of this settlement elicits a spider, kind of walking in. It's clear that it's the off season, it's the dry season. What is happening is that it seems to most of you, aside from, the one person who speaks Undercommon, it's really the selling of seeds and things like that, and farming equipment that's going on. You see some deep dwarves selling dwarven mining equipment. You see some other elves who are kind of clearly judging them from afar. And the elves you see here are rarely soldiers. Now you're seeing elves in their natural habitat. They're very well dressed. They're very ethereal. All that kind of otherworldly androgyny, but there's a sharpness to them. You see the blades usually on their hips. The way their red eyes look at the group of you traveling through, particularly Gilwyn, is always very, very harsh. And people, they're very much avoid you, but not to the extent of like looking. They just kind of like just ignore your presence. You can very quickly find a watering hole here, a tavern. Music sort of springs from the place, and you know, if you didn't know better, you know, it would be familiar to any other sort of tavern. It's kind of got one open side. In some places, there's this almost sheer fabric that kind of covers booths and things. Drink is being served, and it seems to be kind of a breakfast brunch. It's brunch time, and apparently Drow have brunch. But it's that kind of meal time. So there are people in this tavern who are being served. The people living in the tavern right now do appear to mostly be soldiers. Most of the Drow soldiers, they're not comparable to the soldiers that you would see on the surface. They're usually wearing leather, and not much higher than that. You do see one samurai, but they're just sitting sort of with one drink in hand, watching others. And maybe some of them are spellcasters. It's hard to tell. What they're drinking appears to be... it's always in bottles. It's never in mugs or anything like that. Seems to be frothing. And the food that they're having is usually this kind of... usually some sort of soup or curry with these rings, these sort of circles of something kind of rubbery and slimy. Sometimes you see what might be insect meat as well. But the tavern is very much alive, with folks playing games, card games, dice games, five-finger fillet, things like that. And there's a little bit of you walk into the saloon and everyone kind of looks at you for a moment. The bard kind of stops playing, but then starts playing again. And what's the plan, party?
I would scan the room for the most handsome soldier.
That would be the samurai. You're not you're not sure if it's just, you know, the impressiveness of the armor or the very like calm but powerful stance, but they are a very handsome male figure in the room, and they're sitting alone as well.
I would go sit down next to him.
His eyes glance to you, and then he just kind of takes a sip of his drink.
It's my birthday.
How old are you to still celebrate such a thing?
Never ask a lady her age.
Where are my manners? He sips again. I suppose I could... You can reach out.
She reaches out a hand and says, Indira.
Indira. My name is Kai. I suppose I could order you a drink. Sake or ginger beer.
Surprise me, Kai.
He will sort of wave down and speak in Undercommon, so you don't know what you're getting, to the bartender.
She leans back to where he can't see and like looks at Serena and is like pointing to the bar stool on the other side of him, just like.
Oh god, Serena had her own ideas, but Serena is going to follow Indira's instructions in that case. I mean, she can't even frigging understand the guy, but whatever.
He sort of tenses up when Serena sits by, and there's a bit of a slight smirk on his face. What is it? Your birthday
Serena,
too?
I would also say that Serena doesn't actually sit at the stool. Serena's got no chill. She is going to summon the shadowy throne and sit in it, and then just go like this on the table, effectively.
It's my sister, Serena.
You are very lucky to have such a sister, blessed by the serpent goddess.
I mean, it's not biological. Chosen
suppose-
sisters.
I suppose that is more important. At this point, a bottle would be handed to you. They'd uncork it, and it kind of fizzes and froths a little bit.
As she's talking to him, like her leg is sort of brushing up against him. She's like being a girl.
What are the rest of you doing?
Vale like watches this for a little while, and then he turned to Riley and he's like, "Look at her, she's all over him. Do you want to get a drink?"
Yeah, actually, when you said that we could have just a drink, I was hoping we could have 3.
Well, let us go get a bottle of whatever that is.
That sounds good.
Somewhere where we can't see that.
So yeah, we'd go I'd go grab a bottle and I'd pay for it.
Yeah.
But when we sit down, I'd make sure that we sit where like his
Nearer.
Yeah, well, but Vale's back is turned to them, but I could still see. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
make sure I'm paying
You're like
attention.
they're like in like the middle. You're like in one of the booths, so you're like,
Yeah, I just kind of keep peeking out, like, oh yeah.
He doesn't really reciprocate your advances in Dira.
Okay.
There's a very calm, very measured approach to everything. He's very more than polite.
He's very hard.
Sorry, I can't really help myself around soldiers. The idea of it is so exciting to me. Fighting for your life and...
Would you want me, my lady?
Oh,
You need but ask.
can
I understand you must be one of the farm girls, but in Narashiro there is no point in the long game.
Well, I enjoy the long game. You don't like discussion and telling your war stories and getting me, fluttery.
Serena would put a hand on his arm as well, just like she's just going to be doing her best because she can't even understand
She doesn't understand, but she definitely understands the body language.
Yeah, exactly.
body
She understands the body language.
She gets that. He sort of leans on one of his arms and does nod a little bit. Romantic attachments are forbidden for a samurai. So if you are looking for a husband...
Nothing long term.
Exactly, then why all the games?
Because they're fun.
He just gives you a long look. Can you give me a persuasion roll? No seduction stat in this game yet.
There really needs to be.
Well, in my system there is. My full
Yeah.
homebrew. Because you're gonna get it used.
Wait, can I get advantage since there's a hot chick on the other side of him? I'm serious.
Menage a trois advantage?
haven't
Yeah,
played.
sure. Yeah. I can't argue with that. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Many a men have been blinded by the idea.
He seems, and then he smiles a bit and looks at both of you and says, "Whatever I can do to please my ladies. You want to hear me talk about battles, talk about my rites of passage as a samurai."
Have you ever fought alongside, I don't know, Hiraga?
No. I have met Hiraga. She is terrifying. But she is very talented. She can see what will pass. That is why she would lead us to battle the above and take what is rightfully ours. Bless the usurper queen.
Rightfully. Definitely yours. What was it like? What was she like? Have you ever seen her fight?
I have seen her power. There was a scout who said something quite displeasing about the dragon that bars our entries. Dragon is tempestuous. With it in our way, we can never have a full assault on the surface. And Hiraga wanted to assault the dragon itself, but could not get permission from the Daimao. But when told this, Hiraga burnt that scout to a crisp, and then sent the ashes to their next of kin. Quite dark.
Serena titters slightly, because he's clearly like.
Yeah.
How'd she do it?
The power comes from her crystal ball, I believe. And the realm she rests in. It's the strangest thing. She does not have a tent like anyone else. She has this door that opens into a realm of her own creation. It's quite magnificent. If I had magic like that, I would not have to spend so much time in places like this.
I'm awfully glad that you spend time in places like this. Bartender, shots.
Absolutely. And he will take a shot. No complaint.
Bartender, more shots.
Keep him coming. If your intent is to get him drunk, please give me a persuasion roll.
Sure.
Because he's chatting. But,
That's pretty good.
in no time at all, this big, strong samurai warrior, several shots down, is just squiffy. There's kind of like hair trailing down from the helmet. He's much more touchy with the both of you.
Serena is very much enjoying this.
Have you got a room here?
I could get one. That might be a good idea.
You ought to.
A private place. Barkeep, your finest room. We'll kind of throw a handful of coins.
Room. Serena, this one's yours.
Yes, no, I expected as much. Don't worry, I shall make sure to enjoy him enough for the both of us.
Thanks. I might come sleep on the floor of the finest room.
And he'll come back and he'll say, why are you so interested in Hiraga? You want to take her place.
No.
You want to take her place. I'm sure an ascendant of the serpent goddess would be grand in a more traditionally more defensive. No offense, I'm sure you could kill me with just a thought.
Excuse me, nature calls. And I would go up to Gilwyn and I'd be like, I need you to cast Understand Languages on Serena.
He can't. It's self only.
It's self only,
No,
yeah.
it's not.
It is.
It is
Tongues
itself.
is
No,
something else. Comprehend language is self only. This came up last week.
yeah.
I remember it coming up. That's why I thought.
Yeah, comprehend languages is self. We established this. Serena isn't bothered. Serena is just I mean, he's drunk. Serena is decent at reading reading body language, particularly of someone who's drunk. She's just going to lead him away, basically.
All right, yeah, I would slide into the booth next to Vale and be like, okay.
Oh no! Okay.
All right, so Hiraga is terrifying. Has a magic crystal ball, with which she can set people on fire. She does see the future, so she probably does see us coming. She's a she, by the way. She doesn't sleep in traditional rooms. She has a magic door that she uses to go to another place from where she rests. Also, she wants the dragon dead so that they can launch a full-scale attack on the surface, and that was the only thing standing in her way. So,
Cool. So, we make it into the camp. We go through the door. We smash a ball and smash her face.
And we have to do this quickly before they launch an attack.
Takes time to mobilize an army like that.
True, but if she's as eager to do it as it seems, they might send waves.
and news of the dragon being slain will
Sending-
reach here sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Sending a vanguard is fine. Less soldiers to deal with. You tend to mobilize your force in 3 forces, as it were: a vanguard, a main force, and a rear guard. I doubt even the drow would be so stupid as to forgo that.
Well, sometimes in battle, emotions get the best of you.
We can't count on that.
I agree.
That's kind of what Riley was saying in there. Yes, we have we've got to know each other a bit better while you were busy doing that.
You'll notice I am not in that room with him. The finest room in the place, I might add.
Oh, well, what great restraint you have shown. I saw what you were doing. You were all over him.
To get information, Vale. And then she shoots a guilty look at Gil, actually.
I thought you'd have a bit more self-respect.
All is fair in information gathering. How would you have had me do it, Vale? How would you have had me do that differently?
How would I have done it? I would have pushed the dagger to his neck. But hey.
Excellent. And then we would have fought this entire bar. We would have had alarms raised.
Well,
all
obviously,
over
I
the
wouldn't have done it publicly. He must go to the toilet at some point.
place. Okay, well, my way.
Better yet, maybe I hold the dagger to something else.
In order to get to something else, I would have had to have done exactly what I just did.
Or you could have just followed him into the bathroom.
Ah, Vale.
And you say, oh, Vale, that's not acceptable. You forget, this is Drow society, and you are a female.
I say, oh, Vale, because I'm tired of this conversation. I had no intentions with that man other than getting information, and I got it. Quickly, might I add.
Okay. Good. Well done, then.
Riley takes a long, hard sip that's kind of almost like verbal of her drink.
And why don't we take a quick little break on that?
And I'm going to go get me a long, hard sip.
Hey!
Time
I'm not
for
at your
a beer.
house, Neil.
Hmm?